Rayman 4, a legendary game in its own right, and yet it has never been released to the public. This leaves the question, why is everyone so hyped for a game that doesn't even exist? Well, it does exist, as seen by some promotional material from back in the day, and recently the game's prototype got leaked, giving us loads of information on what Rayman 4 would have looked like. Now for a quick sum up, Rayman 4 was supposed to be the successor to Rayman 3, which was released in 2003. Now Rayman 4 started getting concepts made in 2005 and was later announced in 2006. Little did people know the game announced in 2006 wouldn't be the original Rayman 4. Then the game was cancelled, with many concepts and prototypes being made beforehand. There are many reasons why the game was cancelled, but I believe the game was cancelled because of the Wii. Now what's the Wii got to do with Rayman 4? Well, the Wii was released and was a massive success, which no one expected. So Ubisoft was sitting there like, okay, we kinda need a game for the Wii, and Rayman 4 might be a massive flop due to how successful the Wii is. So, what they did was they scrapped Rayman 4 and started developing a game for the Wii, Rayman Raving Rabbids. Now there are some aspects in this minigame from the original Rayman 4, mostly backdrops and all that, so for a quick sum up, that's basically what happened to Rayman 4. But now in the year 2023, the game still hasn't been released, but we have a lot more information on what the game would have been, especially with the addition of prototypes, which were recently leaked. So with all the information I've gathered, this is what Rayman 4 would have been like. Now from what I've heard, the plot was supposed to go something like this. You follow Rayman, who's been sent to a training camp where you meet loads of Ubisoft characters. Now the interesting thing about this game is that apparently, because I don't know if this information is 100% correct, all the characters in the game have a conscience and are all being controlled by real players. And that's the whole story of the game. It's like a sort of Matrix thing. All the enemies are controlled by people and all the characters are controlled by people. Now you might be saying to yourself, this is really weird, especially coming from Rayman 3. But that's the thing, Rayman 4 was supposed to be very, very different to Rayman 3. Rayman 4 was sort of a reboot of the Rayman franchise, going back to its weird origins, with Rayman 1 and Rayman 2, pretty much ignoring Rayman 3. The creator wanted to capture that weirdness of Rayman 1 and 2. That's why when looking at concepts for Rayman 4, it kinda looks like Rayman 1. That's because a lot of the maps were reimaginings of Rayman 1 in a 3D format. That's why the game looks a lot like Rayman 1 and nothing like Rayman 3, besides the power-ups. Now Rayman 4 brought the idea of power-ups from Rayman 3 and brought them over to Rayman 4 on steroids. Now the enemy of the game would have been the rabbits, which were added later on. Now you can see these rabbits mostly in the prototype, and it's one of the only things that was carried over into the mini-game. But there was another villain in the game that came from the original concepts, and that was Dark Rayman. Now Dark Rayman made his first appearance in Rayman 1, but in Rayman 4, Dark Rayman was supposed to be a glitched out character. This again fits with the Matrix theme. Now as said by Phonics, Rayman 4 was supposed to be a lot easier than the original games, and especially easier than Rayman 1. Yes, it was taking inspiration from it, but it sure as hell weren't taking the hardness from it. Phonics even said 100% of the players should be able to finish the game. Now the reason they did this was to attract a larger audience. Rayman 1 only had a very select audience, and not many people like super hard games. Now the game, as I said before, would have contained many reworkings of original Rayman 1 levels. This is heavily seen in many concepts from the time. Now when looking at the concepts, they appear to be multiple Rayman games clashing together, literally like a multiverse. Now this was a really cool and unique idea that I think would have took Rayman to new places. Just seeing all the Rayman games clashing together in a sort of alternate universe would have been great, and back then it was ahead of its time. If it did it now, it'd just be copying Spider-Man. But back then it was very original. All the levels of Rayman clashing together in one big world would have just been great. I could just think of all the possibilities now, but sadly this won't come to fruition. Another cool feature from the game was vehicles and animals, which Rayman could ride to help him on his journey. Now the problem is Rayman 4's kinda all over the place. The original concepts of the game are, as like I said, like a multiverse clashing together, but this was kinda scrapped and moved to more of the rabbits taking over. This might have been where the vehicles come in. It's very hard to tell where it all comes into place. There's like two different stories of Rayman 4. If you look at the original concepts of Rayman 4, it's almost like a multiverse crashing together, and I don't think the rabbits are even in it. But the vehicles are still a really cool feature that I would have liked to see in the game. There was one vehicle, like a scuba suit, which Rayman could wear to go underwater. I could just imagine all the underwater levels, how fun they would have been. But the addition of all these vehicles would have made the game feel so expansive, especially when looking at some of the prototypes. This game looked very ahead of its time. The vehicles in the games were birds and spiders and some other creatures, which would have allowed Rayman to transport very easily. This appeared from the prototypes to be a very open world game, which was very different from the original concepts of the game. Now, as I said, Rayman 4 is missing a lot of information. So if you're wondering what I imagine it to look like, then this video is for you. And if you did enjoy, please consider subscribing and join the Insta Army today. And I'll see you next time. See ya!